We've gotten some big news for Keeta. Keeta is officially on Coinbase's radar with a listing most likely coming fairly soon. So this is of course huge news. If you're not aware, usually when Coinbase lists something, it's very, very good for the token price. And so I'm going to be watching this very, very closely. We're going to actually dive right on into the chart so we can see what we're working with right now. And we're also going to be looking at some of the other things that Keeta is getting ready to do. I think we could be seeing a major move coming for Keeta here pretty soon. However, if we do go take a look into this chart, I am struggling for finding a perfect entry. This could potentially be an entry. There's a lot of different ways that, we could potentially be breaking down this chart and looking at it. I try not to get too fancy or too complex because at that point I feel like a lot of it is just kind of making up pictures and drawing pictures and stuff. So, the first thing that we could see, is there's kind of this like descending trend line that we had. Again, doesn't really respect it super well, anything past like kind of the 24th of August. So I don't necessarily feel super strongly in that. We do kind of have this ascending trend line that we could be maybe following, but again, similar type of thing. It doesn't have a lot of historical precedent, really only kind of coming back to the beginning of September. So I guess it is following it for about 2 weeks. We are kind of bouncing right off of this trend line. So there is the possibility that this could be a decent entry to continue back to the upside. But also, like, if we look at like kind of macro structure here, there's nothing that's really super like convincing or strong here. We can see maybe like a couple of different levels of resistance kind of in this range. We could see, this has been a level of support-ish. We've just recently been rejected in this range. There's been several points of rejection in the past in this range. So potentially that is a decent level of resistance. So maybe there is the possibility that if we see this bounce, continue, break up, come back onto this line, maybe that could be a decent entry. Now, I would say kind of from like a risk reward perspective, maybe the best entry is coming up, waiting for it to break here at the 170, retest, and then start to make that move up. However, we are very, very well below that range, and so it could be better to find an entry back in this range. It's just hard to say kind of exactly what that good entry could be. It does look like kind of when we were down in this range, it would have been nice to see price kind of come back into this 65-cent range because there would have been a ton of historical precedent here to say that this would have been a decent entry. We never really got there, only wicking as low as about 71 cents. So we were still about 5-6 cents off of this entry range. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now. I personally am looking and waiting for an entry into Keeta, at least from like a trading perspective. As if for those of you who've been following me, as many of you may know, I have been trading a decent bit rate lately. And so I do think that, having a position in Keeta, especially where we start kind of leading into the Coinbase situation and when we start leading into their mainnet launch, which is coming soon, there are going to be plenty of kind of catalysts for this, as well as they are a layer one that is moving into kind of the payments ecosystem. This is huge business. I think that they're going to be very well positioned to see some major gains purely off of just narrative. I think that Keeta can deliver just because of the backing that they have. But even if they can't and it's purely a narrative play, there is still kind of some major stuff going on there. So this is kind of what I'm seeing here. I'm still, as I mentioned, kind of looking for that entry. We'll wait and see kind of what we have. I don't feel like this is the perfect entry, but I'm always subject to kind of change my mind based on kind of how things look and how things move. If we start to see some kind of rejection and bouncing off of this, and we can manage to get through this level of resistance, then I might be inclined to get into a Keeta play. But we'll see, and we'll kind of just be tracking that very closely based on how it goes. We also, as I mentioned, have a lot of really good news coming today. So stick around. We're going to be going over that in a second. am going to show you, I have been trading here. As you guys know, I've been trading. I actually just recently got into this epic trade. You can see here up about 128%. This has actually been a relatively quick mover. I don't even think I've been in this trade 24 hours. It's moved insanely well. So, I've already taken some profits. I've actually moved my stop loss well above entry just because I think, this is kind of the higher low that we'd be looking to form. If we don't form it, then that's fine. I'll just kind of take the profits where we're at and move along to the next trade. And I am willing to kind of gamble with some of the profits that we have now to take that risk. So that's kind of what we're looking at. I do actually have a take profit up at the $2.96 range. Who knows if we'll get there, but there is kind of plenty of precedent seeing this in the past. You can see we've hit this kind of $3 range multiple times in the past. And so I am kind of trying to play this swing trade all the way up. So that's what we're looking for. As I have mentioned, profits locked. We're basically free riding at this point. So I'm not particularly worried about this trade. I'm just going to let it kind of play out. I also have been in on a Linnea trade as well. This one has actually moved quite nicely. We could see up 20% just in one day. I'm playing on a 7x long here, which gets us about 150% up currently. So again, another nice trade coming in as the market has been moving very nicely. So this one, I don't really have any take profits or stop losses. I will probably be adding in that stop loss to break even, maybe even a little bit of kind of some baked in percentage here. But then again, we'll just kind of see how this goes. Linnea is a new one. I could see that it running a lot just based purely off of hype. So I am going to be kind of playing a wait and see type of game with Linnea. I will keep you updated there. If you are interested, as you can see, I am trading here on Weex. I do have that link in the description below to Weex if you are interested. I also do have links to BTCC as well as BloFin. BTCC is offering that 10% bonus guaranteed on first time deposits, which is a really, really nice deal. If that is something that you are interested in, of course, you can find things like Weex and BTC or BloFin as well. Both have great deposit bonuses and also trading bonuses as well if you are interested. So moving on, I want to go over a couple of different things. The first thing here being the Bitcoin to gold chart. If you can see Bitcoin and gold kind of looking very, very similar in kind of their macro looking charts that we have seen. Gold, we've seen just absolutely rocket, particularly over the recent past. There are a couple different claims as to why this is. I think this has largely been kind of non-American countries and entities starting to back more of their reserves with gold instead of the US dollar. Now, if you are the US, this is slightly concerning because that means that people are no longer essentially valuing the dollar the way that they used to in terms of a kind of like the reserve currency of the world, which can be concerning. However, for Bitcoin, this is absolutely huge news because it does mean that we could see a similar type of move for Bitcoin. Now, the way that we're looking at this is like this is a arithmetic chart and this is a logarithmic chart. So I think, it's not meaning to say that we're going to immediately teleport up to 4 million or something. The way that this is being portrayed is slightly misleading if I were to kind of say so myself. But I do think that we can still see something similar where we see kind of this really strong breakout and kind of price discovery going on here, like we are potentially kind of on the cusp of for Bitcoin. So that's kind of what I'm going to be paying very, very close attention to. I do think as people start to adopt Bitcoin more, we will start to see this similar type of thing happen. It's just currently there's so much skepticism with crypto and with Bitcoin that we are being slightly held back by that. But as you're seeing, institutions are jumping in with both feet. Governments are coming to the table. Regulation is happening. This is coming. So I would say do not hesitate here because it is simply a matter of time. Again, purely in my opinion. Now, moving along, we can see there's a couple of things that I wanted to go over here with Keeta. We're seeing a couple of different kind of interesting announcements here. They've got the one blockchain, all financial parties, seamless money transfers worldwide. If you're noticing, this is the thing, right? So many people are trying to solve this problem. XRP is trying to solve it. This is kind of the major thing that the XRP community and the XRP team is really kind of laser focused on is money transfers, a better way to move money. It's obviously a very outdated system. And so this really is kind of the golden goose. And there's a massive, massive competition to see who can get there first and who can kind of take the lion's share of the pie. I do think XRP is definitely kind of in pole position to get that done. But I do think Keeta is in a very strong position where they could clean up a very large piece of the space. I don't think this is going to be winner take all. I do think there is a place where we could see 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 winners potentially. And one of the things that sticks out to me for Keeta is they've got such a small market cap. Keeta is roughly, I want to say around 300 million in market cap, where XRP is like 200 billion, I think maybe even pushing 300 billion at this point. So a very, very large project. And so if we were to see Keeta even just catch up and go, let's just say play even with where XRP is now, we're going to be looking at like 100x. Now, I'm not insinuating that that's going to happen. I'm just saying if that were to happen, that we would see some absolutely insane moves. So I do think that the upside for Keeta is much, much higher than something like XRP. Although the risk, I would say, is kind of commensurate, right? Is also kind of equally high from that perspective. Now, the other thing I want to show you here is we can see that Coinbase has made the announcement that they've added both Keeta and Noise to the roadmap, which is indeed Noise. But we can see here, Keeta being added is obviously very exciting. them being added to the roadmap does not mean that they have been launched on Coinbase, but it does mean that they generally will be at some point in the future. And they have seen kind of some new exchange listings listing Keeta for free because of the attention that we've seen from Coinbase. So in my opinion, this is a huge deal. We want to watch this closely. And I personally am really kind of going back to this chart. I'm really going to be trying to have my position ready before we see that Coinbase announcement. Because as we generally do know, when Coinbase does make those listing announcements, we do see a very strong move up in price. And so I want to make sure that I am kind of prepared and positioned for that before that happens, not after. We also do have that the mainnet coming and the news of the mainnet launching coming here shortly. So this is something that I want to kind of wait for. You can see we've got the 10 million transactions per second, the 400 millisecond settlement, all of this type of stuff. If you go to their website, you can see currently only on testnet, but it is coming. It is getting close, at least from everything that I've heard. When exactly it comes out, we don't know exactly for sure. But what we can see here is just kind of as a quick refresher on what Keeta is doing and kind of speaking to the fierce competition for this payments network new thing. It's just absolutely insane. To me, this might be kind of like, this might be the narrative of the cycle. Many people are speculating it could be gaming, maybe it's AI. I don't know. Stable coins and payment networks. This is just kind of everything that people are wanting. Tokenization is another big thing. This is where all of the real building is going on, is kind of like basically building a better payments network. So we can see here, move assets across networks, trade real world assets. Again, real world assets, tokenization, another major thing. Compliance, scalable by design. We'd see orders of magnitude more scalable. This is something that we have kind of known for a while. Built-in tokenization. Again, tokenization, another very kind of buzzwordy thing that we're hearing from a lot of the major players within the crypto space. Built-in compliance with more regulation and regulatory things coming. Compliance is, of course, going to be necessary. Love it or hate it, it is what it is. And this is, again, another thing that's been kind of very accurately kind of put out here in the forefront. Decentralized marketplaces, instant cross-chain swaps, real-time liquidity streaming, all this stuff. This is exactly kind of what we've seen. So from so many different projects, XRP, Hyperliquid, we have XCN or Onyx Coin doing it. Zebek is kind of doing a more limited version of this with payroll. I mean, there are so many different projects tapping into this, many others. We have things like Say that's putting the like Wyoming stable coin on there. We've got like Circle, which has done absolutely gangbusters this year. It's a stock, not a crypto, but they're the ones that are the issuers of USDC. That one's done insane. There's been so much movement this year in terms of all of these types of crypto, like payments, tokenization, real world assets types of projects. To me, it seems pretty clear where things are going. We can see here then, again, they're kind of giving their comparison against competitors, things that we have looked at before. But overall, like I said, it becomes very clear to me kind of where we're going. And let me actually pull up the CoinGecko really quick, the CoinGecko account for Keeta, because we can see just the upside that we have here. The upside is very high. So we could just kind of fact check what I've been looking at. So 467 million, I believe I said it was about 300 million. So a little bit higher of a market cap. And then we have a fully diluted valuation of about $1 billion. So again, still very early here. Are listed on the Base ecosystem. Again, this is something else that I'm very bullish on. I do think that the Base ecosystem is going to do very well. But if you could see, even fully diluted, if we were to move to XRP's market cap, we're looking at like 200x or more from here. So definitely a very kind of high upside play here that we could potentially see. So that's one of the things that I'm looking at. I'm very interested to see what happens. Hopefully you found the information in this video useful. If you did, of course, like, subscribe, notification bell, you know what to do, all that type of good stuff. It does in fact help me a lot, and I do appreciate all of the support. Also, if you have any comments or anything, drop those in the comments. I do read and respond to all those and really appreciate kind of your guys' thoughts and opinions on what you think about these various projects in crypto. Is this a flash in the pan? Could this be the next big winner? Who knows? But I do think that the winner, I do realistically think that whoever kind of wins this payment networks war is probably going to be $1 trillion project. That to me does not seem unreasonable at all. You might think I'm crazy, but that to me seems very doable. So overall, I'm super interested to see how it goes. Thank you all for tuning in. Stay tuned if you want to keep up on it with me, and we'll see you in the next one. Thanks. Bye.